And I am live. Hey, thanks for jumping in here. I've already got one viewer in here. That's great. Please share, share, share. I've got the coolest people on here tonight that I could ever wanted. Nick and Sue, Short Bus Paranormal. In fact, I write about them, and they let me write about their little group in my newest book, In Conflict. Nick told me he was reading it already. He was like at chapter 3 or something. But we're going to be talking to Nick and Sue. It was the one and only event we ever had at the Stagecoach Inn. And these two witnessed some stuff that, well, I always try to talk about it, but it's, coming from me is one thing. Coming from a participant is something else. So I'm going to bring in these two, and they're going to tell you a little bit about, or hopefully a whole lot about, their experiences and some really cool things that they captured well after this event. And we'll get to that in a little while. So anyway, here they are, Nick and Sue. I'd say your last name, but I'd butcher it. So
That's
go
right.
ahead.
That's right. It's Nick and Sue Poshusta.
Yeah, I can't even say it.
That's right. All right. That's kind of our security. If you can't see our last name when you call us, we don't know you. So that it works out pretty well.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like Cornelison. Nobody can say that either.
There you go.
So, hey, you guys, you really had an experience at the Stagecoach Inn. We had promoted it for a while. Chris Moon had made kind of a walkthrough, and he was in Manila, Iowa, I believe. He was at the Klondike Hotel, and he came up as kind of a favor for somebody else, and he walked through there, and he used his camera phone, and it was him and Dee Garcia. It was the first time they had ever met. It was at the Stagecoach Inn.
Wow.
And he walks through there, and he was just like, this is a really dark, dark place. And he eventually said, hey, Alan, he says, after his live stream, he says, if you ever want to do an event from here, he said, let me know. And I said, okay, I'll do that. And he left. And I thought, well, I'll never see him again. I don't know how to do an event. And at that time, now I was living in Ankeny, Iowa. I'd moved away from Ida Grove. I didn't live there anymore. And so like 3 days later, my phone rings, and it's Chris Moon. And he says, Alan, he says, we're going to do an event from the Stagecoach Inn. And so he starts plugging this place. They'd seen the video. I think it was the video that they seen that galvanized in their mind that they wanted to come there. And this is that video. Let's take a look at it real quick. These things occur, but they do occur. And look at that. Look at that. Are you kidding me? Yeah, are you kidding me? And that's kind of how it all started. He's seen that, and then he starts selling tickets, and he goes to this, and at some point, you guys seen this event, and I don't know, was it then that you started following my page and looking at videos? Yeah. Anyway, I'm going to kind of just let you guys kind of take it from here and kind of tell your little story.
Yeah, we just happened to be watching some of your stuff, and I'm going, I liked what I saw and everything. And then when I saw that spinning wheel video, that absolutely blew my mind, and that really made me think about, wanting to investigate that place. And at that time, didn't know how to contact, didn't know who to contact or anything like that. But then all of a sudden we heard about this event with Chris Moon, and we looked at each other. We're going, here's our opportunity. We definitely need to go and check out this place. So Sue made the contact, got the tickets and all that. And the first night, we were sad to say we could not make it to the first night because of an investigation. But to make it a little bit of that, Saturday morning, we get up and Chris Moon is on Facebook Live with the most serious, drawn. His expression was amazing. The way he looked.
Yeah.
And he's saying, people, I'm coming on here just to tell you kind of some of the things that happened Friday night.
Now, was that from the motel room? Because I know that, he had got the Super 8 there in town, and he was doing some live streams from the motel.
Yep.
So that might have been it. Anyway, I'll let you guys go ahead and go on.
But he comes on there and he starts, folks, I want to tell you just kind of what we went through last night here. And we had 17 people here last night. 17 people left that night with scratches, burns, physically and emotionally affected, and each one in a different way. And they just started leaving. There wasn't like a mass exodus. People just started leaving in singles and groups with the way they came in.
They did. In fact, Chris came to me and he says, Alan, is the park like open? He says, I'm seeing like traffic, going outside. Like, it was dark.
Mm-hmm.
And you could see, mostly all you see was taillights, and that's dark out there. And I said, no, Chris,
very dark.
People are leaving. Yep. They're just freaking out. And these are, a lot of them are experienced investigators like yourself. So anyway, I'll let you continue.
Yep. So Chris comes on there and he says, I just want to let you all know, we will continue with Saturday night's investigation, but we want to warn you, it got extremely dark here last night. So if you do come in, come protected and well prepared, because we are not sure what's going to happen here tonight. So I look at Sue and Sue looks at me and I'm going, are we going to this? Or she says, are we going to go to this? I went, yeah, absolutely. We need to go to this. I need to know more on this location, what's going on there. So we got everything ready.
So just because I was feeling a little uncalm.
Sue's an empath.
About all of this. My great aunt was a nun. And I had her rosary from when she became a nun. So I took that and I brought that with us because I felt that it was something we were going to need to have with us.
So we make the trip there and we show up early doing a little walking around. We didn't know a lot of people there at that moment, because there was a lot of people from over on that part of the side of the state. So we had not interacted with a lot of them.
And you might add, too, that it was hot.
Oh, it was hot. It was very hot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing is, and most people should know this, and just to be aware that there was one door in that whole place that would open. Everything else was nailed shut.
Mm-hmm.
So anything that was occurring there, you couldn't enter from any place else.
No.
So once you was in there, you were in there, and it was sweltering.
Yep.
It was a hot box.
So we all got there, and it started out, there was a, what would you call that building just up the road from there, Alan? It was just like the a Parks building, or it's kind of like a meeting, the class.
That was the old train depot.
Okay.
That they did their Ghost Box University thing at.
Okay.
And that was interesting in itself because it was later that night after one of those Ghost Box University shows or what it, anyway, there was people that had their cars in the parking lot and it was dark. The lights were coming on inside their cars.
Yep.
And it was like freaking everybody out, but I'll let you continue.
Yep. So we all met up at that building up there. It was Chris and Dee and Mama Moon. We're all up there. We were going to, question and answers and talk about the investigation and what was going to be happening that night. And so we had a great time. Got to meet people, talking to Alan, of course, and different ones there. And we got to the end and we're all going, and the Moon, Chris Moon is going, all right, folks, are you ready to get this going? So we did. We all, at that time, I think there was a little bit of hesitation with everybody, because hearing of what had happened last night, but at the same time, we're going, was it really that bad? Because we didn't know, and as we go along here, some of the things we're going to say, unless if you were there, Alan, and you can attest to it, people are going to go, no way, this is crap.
Yeah.
This is movie stuff. They're all pulling your leg. Even I know Sue still can't believe a lot of the stuff we experienced and saw what you went through. It's movie stuff.
It really I sit there, for me to say it is one thing and understand. And I want everybody that's watching to understand that the entire time that I lived in Ida Grove, I begged people to come and investigate this place. I tried so hard to get the word out about if they wanted to really experience true, and I'm not saying anything else isn't true, but really just undiluted paranormal phenomenon, they need to come to the Stagecoach Inn.
Mm-hmm.
And I had like a handful of people. I was getting to the point where I was even going to pay for people to come and do an investigation, because I've said this so many times. Anybody can say a location's haunted. You got to get validation. And I wanted so badly to get validation. And on this particular night, we got validation tenfold.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It was, so we all walked down to the house, and it was kind of interesting because we got to before we even really started an investigation, we all just had some free time to just walk around the building and get our own feelings and check out the areas. And of course, everybody walks in and we're all going, there's that spinning wheel. That's the spinning wheel we all saw go moving on the video, which was absolutely amazing. But I'd say we had a couple hour maybe to walk around and just immerse ourselves in the building.
Extreme vertigo when you would walk into the building. Anyway, for me.
Yeah, different rooms that you would walk into. That room that had the spinning wheel in there, that was just a really off.
Hi, Michelle.
Heavy feeling in that room.
There was at least one occasion, and I talked about it, I think, in Too Deep. I was there doing getting ready to do an investigation. It was during the daylight hours, and these two really nice elderly women, they come kind of walking in there, and I'm trying to hide my K2s and millimeters in my pockets, and so I said, can I give you like the dime tour? And they were saying, yeah, sure. And they walked from the kitchen into what would be the men's room area, almost to the point where they were going by the table there, and one of them almost fell over. She says, I'm all of a sudden I feel really dizzy. And I thought to myself, oh God, here we go. And so yeah, that place it'll kind of put you on your ass if you're not real careful.
And the interesting part is the outside of that location is the same thing. You walk around and you have got that feeling of 1,000 eyes watching you out of the woods. It's, for anybody that knows where this location's at, it's surrounded deep in the woods. It's a little driveway that leads you back to it. It's back there ways. And for you to walk out there and just get that feeling, you are definitely not alone. I've had that in many places, but there's just something different about this because of the sensation you get outside of that building in particular for some reason. So that was pretty interesting. But we all got together and like I said, we had our chances to walk around. And I noticed at that point already a couple of times when I saw you, Alan, that you at that point already, and this was early, and you were already like you were off somewhere else. You were already like you were being mildly affected at that time. You were like somebody could walk up and ask you a question and you weren't there.
He was already walking the edge.
Yeah, you were like one footstep away from already falling deeply into
the rabbit hole.
Yeah, whatever wanted you was that close to grabbing you at that point.
Well, I had another group that came in early on. It was Paranormal Endeavors, Eric Klein.
Yep.
And he had investigated there once before. And he was pretty impressed, as everybody was. And then he came back like 2 years later, year and a half later. And I met him there at the end. And he comes right up to me. He says, man, you've changed. He says, there's something off with you. And of course, you're on the inside looking out, as I was.
Yep.
And I said, dude, I'm no different than I was, a year ago. But there was a lot of people that pointed that out to me, and it was that place. It had me in its grip, and I talk about that in the first book, In Too Deep.
Absolutely. Yep. And we had set up at that point yet too until we got into one big mass session. We had broken off into little groups. Sue and I stayed together. We had a couple other folks with us, but it was like we all took. How many people were there with us that night? That was probably
about 18.
About 18 people did show up that night. And jump ahead just a little bit. There were a lot of people that got affected last night. We actually saw one young man there that ended up out of nowhere. It looked like there was a rope burn completely around his neck, and it came. And I was standing. You'll see pictures here in a little bit. And there was the young man was standing right in that doorway, and I could see him the whole time. And that rope burn showed up just like somebody had been hung
Yeah, it was
out of there.
he was between the
Yeah,
bone
yeah,
and
I remember that. There was so many things that happened that night. It was rope burns. It was, I think, I wish I had the photo, and I do not. D Garcia had like this burn on her arm, and it wasn't a scratch.
No.
It honestly looked like a burn, and somebody had said it looked like a tribal burn.
Yeah.
What do you think? Do you think it was a tribal burn?
I really
Very
believe
good
it was, because like I
possibility.
said, there's so much Native American activity out there. I think has a lot to do with that. And as you know, we had a lot. And again, going to some pictures that we'll see there is a lot of Native activity out there.
There's a lot of
with the
bloodshed.
burial ground and the bloodshed that was there. So it would not surprise me at all that was definitely a tribal sign on there.
You know, the hanging
Well, I
tree.
think they did a spirit box session. It was like I think it was when he came up, when Chris Moon came the first time before the event. He did a spirit box session inside of the inn, and I don't remember who it was, but it was a name that came through, and it was a woman's name, and it was like Piente or somebody like that.
Yep.
And Chris asked the question of, why that, they were causing so much disturbance with me and everybody else. And it came through as saying not the same blood.
Yep.
And which then later with me made sense, because I found out that was part Cherokee Indian. And so the story just gets better from there. And I'll let you guys go ahead.
It does. And it's amazingly enough, like I said, and that was prior to this night with that Native American name that came through on there. And it came through again for us that night when, like I said, before I get to that, we all broke into different groups, walked around, had our own little sessions. We all were seeing shadow figures moving around, and the heavy sensation. There were people already at that point starting to feel upset to their stomach and things like that. If you can think of different things to go in, you could talk to some people and you could already see in them they were starting to feel depressed, not happy, anxious, and things like that. And then at that time they were reporting too, where they were being touched, hands, felt the weight of someone's hand, like pushing them out of the way, and things like that, hair being pulled, disembodied voices, more like a growl, more like a gruff.
Yeah, not so much a voice, but
more like a tribal chant, almost, to that point that they were experiencing as they were in different parts and outside the building that night.
Yeah, Dee actually collapsed. There was one point where she collapsed, and what is interesting about that is you were using like a full spectrum camera.
Yep.
And you, one or both of you were off. I believe it would have been the side of the room where the staircase was that goes upstairs. And you took a really unique picture, and I'm going to show this picture, and it's of Dee, and it's just as she's getting ready to fall. And I want everybody to look at this, and you can kind of see where Nick and Sue have circled something here. But take a look at this. Look at that circle, and I'll enhance it here in a little bit. And I'm going to let everybody kind of look at that for a minute and make your own assumptions on what you see there. And then we'll come back with the enhanced photo. But that photo was taken just before she collapsed. Is that correct?
Correct. At that point, when we all gathered together, we were all in the main room there. And Chris had set up, I think it was the Frank's box at that time. And we started doing, he started asking questions, and we were getting some amazing detailed conversations from different spirits around there. And again, going back to the point about talking about people not belonging there, that this is not their place. You need to leave. It was straightforward, wanting us to get out of there. And it's interesting, there was a point, and I think it happened just before Dee fell, and it ties in with when you had who'd you have on 2 weeks ago there, Alan? Do you remember? I can't think of his can't think of his name. You had him on, I think, last week.
Oh, that
Dave
might have
LaFleur.
been Dave LaFleur.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's
They
interesting.
had some amazing things that happened to them when they
Yep.
were there.
But go ahead, Alan.
They were actually brave enough to put a number on it. Normally they don't put a number on anything as far as how it's haunted, but they said, we're going to give this a 6 right out of the gate, before they even went over all their information.
Yep. But I was talking to him like about 3-4 days before he went on your show, and he said he brought up, and I know you talked about it that night, that blue light that they had seen on that location. He had seen it. They had seen the light outside, and they had caught it inside the inn a couple times. Amazingly enough, just a short time before Dee collapsed, we all seen about this somewhere between like a baseball and a golf ball, a bright blue light that floated around. It would have been probably just like to the left of this table that you're seeing here, and then circled around, and then came back and was gone. And we're all going, did you see it? Everybody saw it. It was absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it was. Now, I've had some oh my gods. I guess Dee is watching.
Hi, Dee.
I guess that somebody said that, but her reception is really spotty where she's at. I would love to say hi to her. I haven't seen her in so long. God bless you.
Too long. Yeah, it was.
They went through a lot with that investigation.
They did.
I know that
orb flew into her.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Sue just reminded me that it did at that point when that orb came back over, like to the left in front of us, just moments before Dee really, because she was doing fine. I mean, they were being stressed from what was going on with the questions and answer and everything coming through the Frank's box, but that orb, just before she started feeling faint, we watched as it basically came around and right at about her elbow, and it seemed to have disappeared inside her. She did not see it. Mm-hmm. She had no idea that light was coming in, and it disappeared inside of her. And it was at that point that she just started feeling really bad, just started getting lightheaded. And dizzy.
She started actually rocking a little bit back and forth. And in fact, Jim Martin was filming all that. Yep. You can hear him say, uh-oh, Dee's going down. And now everybody's kind of had a chance to look at this photo. Now, I'm going to bring it up one more time. It's circled there. Now I'm going to enhance this. And first I'm going to see if any comments, anybody in here. No, nobody's really saying anything what they think that is, but I'm going to enhance it now. Look at that. What do you see? I'll tell you what I see. And it's not really pixelated at all. I mean, I see photos all the time that are super, super pixelated. I didn't come in on this very tight. Mm-mm. That is a Native American face if I've ever seen any. No. You can see the eyes, you can see the mouth, you can see the ears. It almost looks like a headdress. Mm-hmm. And that's when Dee was seriously affected by something.
Absolutely.
That is, it just blows my mind when I look at that photo. Mm-hmm. What a catch, and it happened at the moment that she was getting ready to go down.
Yeah. And again, people, forgive me, folks out there, for, with the circle around that. We did that before, what we knew we were doing in the paranormal. I wish those weren't on there. Somewhere in my thousands of pictures, I'm sure I've got the originals that don't have that circle, but these are the ones that I found, and I wanted Alan to be able to see these tonight. So forgive me for putting the circles around there, but it happened to be that way.
Well, and if you remember right at the beginning, how I had mentioned that I had that uneasy feeling before we left the house. And so I had taken my great aunt's rosary, and she was a nun. Well, when Dee collapsed, I took it off from around my neck and I put it around hers because I knew that she was going to need it.
Yeah. I
remember that. And you were basically comforting. I can't even say it. And
Comforting.
you as well as somebody else. There was another young lady
Yeah.
there
Mhm.
that both of you pretty much grabbed her before she went to the ground.
Yeah, we laid hands on her, sat her down, put the rosary around her neck, and then I kept my hands on her till she was able to kind of get herself back.
As soon as she started buckling, Chris jumps up out of the chair, and these two ladies helped Dee sit down in that chair, but she was sweating, she was pale, she was really being affected by whatever this was. But it just seems so much at that time, from what we were getting through the Frank's box, it seemed just so much with the Native American and the disappointment and them being upset of things that had happened there, and that we didn't belong there at that time again. They were not at all happy with that.
No, they weren't. And it was just one thing after another. We'd have little breaks where Chris would say, hey, we've got to step back from this. If anybody needs, basically spiritual aid, he was going outside, and he was, oh my God, the guy was going. I mean, he was hitting everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, we were all outside of the building. Mostly, it wasn't so much at that point what was going on, but it was so hot.
Yeah.
And everybody was weak and tired. And of course, with Dee collapsing, everybody else started feeling really crappy.
Yep.
And Dee was in both it was mostly Chris. And I think his mom, Mama Moon, they were trying to just render aid. They were doing like blessings and trying to help everybody through, because everybody was having difficulties. And how do you describe those difficulties they were having? It was A to Z.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was, everybody was trying to make sure everybody had water. Everybody was getting, if you could get outside, get in the air, get something, but it was emotional. It was physical. Everybody that was there
Shoes off,
was
trying
affected.
to ground.
Yeah, it was crazy. And I bet you it took 20 minutes probably before Dee started coming back around to where she was getting back to herself. That was a reality check for a lot of people, because we all knew how strong Dee was, and with the help of Chris's strength and Mama Moon's, and for Dee to be affected that much that night, that was pretty crazy. That really made a lot of people spin.
It concerned me. I mean, it concerned me, obviously, that Dee was affected. But I think what concerned me the most was Mama Moon.
Yeah.
I mean, she's not a young kid anymore. And for her to collapse nearly to the floor, nobody at her age is just want to fall to a floor and risk injury. She's not young anymore. And she was, you just hear just going, oh, it was, I was coming down the steps from upstairs when I watched this happen, and everybody was trying to hold her up, and she was like in pain. That's the only way I could describe it. She was in misery. Something was just really grabbing a hold of her. I don't know, because she's such an empath. I don't know what it was, but it was showing that her, and I was showing the Moons, all of us, that I am stronger. I am the almighty in this. You're in my home now.
Absolutely.
That's the gist that I got. What do you think?
Oh, I agree. It wanted, whatever was there that night, wanted everybody that was there to know that we shouldn't be there, that this building was theirs. The land was theirs. They didn't want anybody there. And they wanted to do about anything they could to show us that, and to prove to that point that it really, like I said, it's hard to describe everything that was going on there and all the feelings and all that. And a quick little side note, when that whole thing just after, I think it was just after, with the shadow, just before the whole thing that was affected with Dee, Sue and I were standing in that doorway there. And all of a sudden, I just stood there and I looked up the staircase, the ones I'm talking about, looking upstairs.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, I looked up there and I stepped back. And Sue says, "What?" And just like that, I looked again, but right at the bottom of the stairs, that was the first time in my life I ever saw the Hat Man. As clear as I'm looking at you, He's standing there, probably 5'7", 5'8", somewhere in there, absolutely black as could be, the hat and everything. And he just stood there. And I just went, and I looked at Dee or at Sue, and I says, "Did you see that?" And she says, "No, what?" And I says, "You're not going to believe what I just saw."
Wait till you get to chapter. Let me see. There's in my new book, folks, In Conflict. There's 18 chapters, and I believe it might be chapter 16, maybe. But yeah, incredible, just absolutely incredible. I go ahead.
Just to add a little bit more to that, this was still relatively early in our paranormal experiences and all that stuff. And, the idea with mediums and all that, we didn't know really where to believe on that. But the Hat Man experience that night, I didn't tell anybody else but Sue. She knew absolutely nothing else, or nobody else knew about the Hat Man that night. So when we finally did get home Sunday, a good friend of ours and medium Chuck Banks got a hold of us because he had a feeling that somebody had taken something home with them. He was worried, and he just wanted to check with us. So we're talking, and then he says, "Oh, Nick, by the way, so what did you think about seeing that man, the Shadow Man with the hat?" And I went, "What?" He says, "Well, you saw the Shadow Man with the hat last night there standing, didn't you?" I went, "I did, but I didn't tell anybody." He says, "I know, I was there, but not there." I'm going, that blew my mind. That I could not believe that, because like I said, we didn't tell anybody. And for Chuck to pick up on that was pretty, that kind of hit a spot with us that night.
Yeah,
and then
Chuck,
we were happy.
Chuck really, he picks up on a lot of that kind of stuff. And he's always been really worried about me being there.
Yeah.
When I was in the process of writing the book, I reached out to you guys, and you were gracious enough to allow me to talk about your experiences, and we had a long discussion about me going back there.
Yeah.
And of course, I really don't want to, but you told me that. Well, I'll just let you tell them.
I'll use the words that
I can't talk about myself that well. I'll just, we'll just kind of tell people about our little discussion we had.
Alan had mentioned that he had been asked by a friend of ours, Jim Martin, that he wanted him to go back in there. And Alan and Sue and I were talking that night, and I'm going, "Really?" And we talked a little bit more, and I basically said, "Alan, if you do that, you're nuts. Mm-hmm. You just cannot go back into that place. You absolutely, it would not be safe for you physically, mentally. I think it would take you to such a dark place. I do not think
you'd recover.
You could ever recover from that. I think you were way too close in the first place on that whole thing." But no, I just, all I could say, "No, Alan, don't do it." And I'm glad that you are sticking with that, because that's not good.
No, it wasn't. But you did say that if anybody was ever, and here I don't want to sound like I'm tooting my own horn, because I really don't want anything to do with the place. But you did say if there was one person to go back in there, it would be me.
Absolutely.
And it's like, thanks a lot.
And I meant that in a good way, but at the same time, I would never want you to go back in there by yourself. I would want you to pick
us to go with you.
Well, we'd of course be there for you to cover your back, but
you two would be there. Believe me.
Absolutely.
I have a very short list of people that would go back with me, because I would never do it alone again.
Absolutely. No. You would want the right people there to be there to take care of you and each other in that place.
Alan, I want to ask, and ever since we've started talking about this tonight, the one thing that keeps repeating through my head is 80 children.
Children. Oh, yeah.
Children. Do you recall that?
Yeah. We captured the sound of children there. I was told, and this is new information. You guys have never heard this before. I just found this out recently. There was a lot of death that involved children in the 1800s that involved the Stagecoach Inn. Mm-hmm. It was a hospital, as we all know, there was many children's deaths that occurred at the Stagecoach Inn. I wish I could have put it in this book,
Hmm.
but I just recently found this out that
That's
there was a
so
lot
sad.
of death there.
Wow.
I also found out, this is from another informer, told me that on one occasion, the stagecoach that was coming from what would be Fort Dodge was robbed within, I don't know, a few miles of the inn. And they were carrying gold. They didn't carry a lot of gold, a satchel of gold.
Mm-hmm.
And they were robbed. During the robbery, this gentleman, robber, he was shot.
Oh.
But he still got away with the gold. And the stagecoach showed up at the Stagecoach Inn. They reported it to the Moorheads. There really wasn't any law enforcement then, but
Mhm.
they let them know that that they were robbed. And like a day or so went by, and a gentleman shows up at the Stagecoach Inn, and it was the guy that had robbed the stage. And he said, "Look, I'm him. I'm the guy." And he was mortally wounded.
Oh.
And he said before he passed away that the gold was buried near the inn.
Oh, geez.
Wow.
Now, I had talked to Dr. Rebecca Foster about this,
Mhm.
and she starts doing one of her clairvoyant readings and stuff. She's never been at the inn before, and she's all of a sudden she like puts herself in the area, and she's pointing out all these different landmarks that I'm familiar with, and she says it's right over there. And I won't go into detail, but
Sure.
everything she told me, it's like, oh my God, this could be real. This
Wow.
could be, an actual thing, that there could be gold that's someplace nearby. And it could be that this person that passed away there, that died, is still
Mhm.
wanting to get his gold back. I don't
True.
know. What do you think?
Yeah. Or he could be there trying to protect his gold and keep everybody else away from it. It could
Mhm.
be another good part of that. That's kind of the way. Yeah. If I had gold buried, I wouldn't want anybody anywhere near where it's at.
Mhm.
Absolutely. That's a very good possibility.
Yeah,
Oh.
it just, and that's what this place is like. Every time I think, well, I've heard it all, something else comes up.
Mhm.
There's one more person that all of a sudden comes forward.
Mhm.
They just kind of trickle in all the time. And I've had a lot of people tell me that I'm not going to get the whole story
No,
of the
No.
Stagecoach Inn.
no way.
A lot of the people there regard the inn as kind of the fair-haired child, so to speak. It's
Mhm.
it's the cornerstone of Vida County, and I understand that.
Yep.
That's why I thought when they said that all investigations are done, I have to respect that.
Yep.
Right.
It's really it's not that accommodating to people anyway to investigate.
No,
There's
it's
no
not.
running
No.
water,
No.
there's no heat, there's no real electricity out there. When
No.
you're out there, you're kind of roughing it.
You are. Yep.
So
No.
but anyway, Sue,
No.
was there some kind of something that you were hitting on with these children? Was there something that you were picking up on,
It's
maybe?
just something that it just keeps rolling through my mind. 80 children, 80 children, 80 children. And that's all I'm getting right now. It's just 80 children.
Interesting. Well, you did know that John Moore, who I talk about, who's another
Mhm.
character in all these layers of the Stagecoach Inn, was a member of the Odd Fellows, and I talk about
Yeah.
him as well. I really get into that in this book,
Okay.
In Conflict, about John Moore and his suicide.
Mhm.
And if you read the book, you'll understand why I'm really suspect of his suicide. That there's
Ah,
some things that just do not add up,
Mhm.
gotcha.
and you'll have to really read it. And I think once you read it, you're going to go, okay, maybe that's why John Moore is still there and possibly being one of the individuals that's haunting that place. You know as
Probably.
well as I do that everything in that place is an antique.
Mhm.
The historical society, they're always getting donations from people all over the country, all over
Ah,
the nation,
Yeah.
and they donate everything from the 1800 era.
yeah.
Mhm.
So what are your thoughts on that? Do you think any number of those things could hold some kind of energy?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I think
Yep.
anything you bring in from any place can bring baggage.
Mhm.
But I think especially from that period, with the way the country was, with how tough everything was, and how tough everybody had to be, I think there could be some absolute baggage coming in with some of that stuff. Not all bad, not all good, but there could be some bad stuff mixed in with some of that. Absolutely.
Well, I just can't. I can't hold it back any longer. You know, I had left there in 2018. I did the final investigation there. In fact, there's a video. It's out on YouTube. I think it's called Stagecoach in 2018, and that's what this book is kind of about. And that investigation is real vague, but it's in this book. It's more clear in the book of what I encountered there. But you guys, on one of your investigations, and I'll kind of let you just talk about the story a little bit. You were out, you were in the area, kind of, and you more or less, well, just tell the story.
We had the team was headed out to the Klondike Hotel in Manila to do an investigation. On the way there or on the way back?
On the way there.
On the way there. And my nephew, the team members, my nephew and his wife, you know, they always heard us talk about Stagecoach, always heard about Stagecoach. We're going, we're close enough. We've got to take you guys there. So we're going to show you what the Stagecoach Inn is like. So we drove them out there, you know, and they're walking around and they're going, wow, this, you know, they thought it was pretty interesting what this place looked like. They said, this looks like that kind of a place. So my nephew's wife takes out the camera, starts taking pictures. And of course, the building is locked up, which is fine. But like, you know, we're walking around and they wanted to see what it looked like inside the building. Cell phone. And it was just your cell phone, you know, snapping pictures. But she wanted to take pictures of the inside of the building. So she gets up close, tight to the window, puts the camera up against the window and snaps a couple pictures. And
I'm going to show everybody what that one picture is. It's just a picture of, this is what they call the drover's room or the mud room. The drover's room, the reason they call it the drover's room is a lot of the farmers that were from all over the state would stop there at the Stagecoach if it was like overnight, and they would sleep in there and they would leave their livestock outside. Somebody would tend it, and then they would go from there to Denison, Iowa to get them to the market. So this is the picture of the drover's room, and this is what it looks like. You can see the glass case over there. That in that glass case is the dress that was found in the wall. It was hung in the walls. They found that when they restored the inn. It also has the shoe that was found in the inn. There's just all kinds of really cool things that are there, and but that's not the whole story, is it?
No, it's not. When she took this other picture, she didn't think anything of it until all of a sudden she turned around and Amy, she looked and she says, "Oh my God, what is this?" And that's where we started looking at the picture going, what is going on in this? There was no explanation that this
and there's not
should have happened.
You know, as we were talking about this photo before the show, and I know enough that I don't know enough about digital stuff.
Sure.
I know that, they won't overlap. It can't overlap each other as far as I know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And, it's a file is a file. It's not like in the old film where you can get double exposures and all kinds of stuff. This in it, I'm teasing people here. It's not a reflection because the camera again is against the window.
Yep.
So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to show this to people and wait for it. Here it is. Now look at this. I'm going to get rid. I'm going to try to get rid of my logo. I don't know if I can or not. No, I don't know where to go to get rid of my logo. But look at that. You see a sky. You see trees. There's all kinds of weird things going on. I'm going to go back to the other photo real quick. Same photo. I mean, it's just a little different angle. That is unique. I have never in my life seen this in a wow.
Yeah.
And the thing is, before I seen this, I was writing a portion of the book talking about ley lines in this book, in conflict, talking about ley lines and vortexes. And I done some study that there's vortexes and ley lines that go through that area. And these vortexes, basically, you're seen into another dimension.
Yeah.
And these things, whatever they are, can travel through these vortexes from one spot to another using the ley lines as the energy source. So what I described in my book, what we might call the Joker in what is
Edinburgh.
Edinburgh could be the Hat Man.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the Stagecoach Inn. So what's your thought on that? And as you explain that, I'll bring that picture up one more time.
Oh, absolutely. That is really what I would think of, that it's to the portal side, that, because, and that's the way everything was there. Cause as you would know, Alan, it's all woods around there. And that day was just like that. As you can see through the window there, sun was shining, beautiful weather. And that's the lower area, and there's an upstairs above that.
There is.
So it's not like there's holes in the roof. There is the second floor to that building. So this somehow is magically showing like a portal, like another passage through that building.
And it is just bizarre. I've taken a lot of pictures. I've captured obviously a lot of different things there, but that is probably the most. And if anybody out there that understands how these files work, please explain them. We're not we're not going to pigeonhole ourselves.
No.
Sue and Nick both are just like me. We don't want to pigeonhole ourselves into one thought, into one theory. But when you see a picture like this, and then the next picture is like this, and it's from the same camera.
Yep.
How do you justify that? I mean, how do you question? What do you say?
Like I said, I was standing there right by her when she took the pictures, and the camera was literally against the glass.
Yeah.
So there's no way she was standing back from the window to get reflections or anything. And even if you would have got reflections of the clouds, you still wouldn't have the pictures of the patches of the ceiling missing. That's the crazy part about it. You may have got a reflection somehow of the sky, but to literally have holes
in the ceiling,
in the floor.
Well, if you look
crazy.
Where my logo is up there in that upper corner, you can almost make out what looks to be a phone pole.
Yeah,
now,
and that is. Yeah.
And if you know anything about the Stagecoach Inn, as you come into the park, you come to a fork in the road. One road takes you down towards the church or the old school. And then you go to the left, and that takes you to the Stagecoach Inn.
Yep.
At that fork, and it's exactly as it should be, is a phone pole.
Yep. Absolutely.
Explain that.
I know.
Folks, I kid you not, both these books, and that's why I'm doing this. It's obviously I like talking to people. I enjoy talking about the paranormal, but here recently I've been doing these Dark River talks to promote my two books, In Too Deep, which I was well in over my head.
Yeah.
I basically call this, I kind of call it the book for paranormal dummies like myself. You don't want to be me. You want to read this book, and you don't want to be me. Hell, I got, let me change here. There. Again, In Too Deep. It was written now almost 2.5 years ago. And everybody has loved it. It's a quick read, but if you don't want to be me, read this book, because anything you could do wrong as a paranormal investigator, I did. And then I wrote the second book, In Conflict. Now there's a little story behind this, and I think I told you guys about this. I'm not real sure. I fired my first editor. When I had the original book, was called Ghosts and Legends of the Stagecoach Inn. I don't have a copy available with me right now, but anyway, there's a whole story behind that. But To
I have one
add
in
to
my
the
closet.
story of the Stagecoach Inn, another layer, I guess you could say,
Yep.
I found out that my publisher of Ghosts and Legends of the Stagecoach Inn was the he was the minister of the Church of Satan.
Seriously.
Seriously,
Wow.
you can look it up on the internet. His name is
Oh,
Eric
wow.
Werner. Eric Werner, look it up. Eric Werner, Church of Satan. So not only did I investigate hell, but my publisher was a disciple of Satan. So if you actually have the first book,
I got it. I got it.
well, it was edited and published by a disciple of Satan. So
I'll keep that in mind. Now it makes me want to go to all my books and dig it out and look at it again, going, wow.
yeah, yeah,
right.
and I have like 10 copies of that left. You know, you can't even get them anymore on Amazon. So maybe they'll be worth something someday. I don't know. But let me see if I got any comments in here. People are liking the comment. Let me see. Angelina says, yeah, she has the first book. I know in fact, she came by here one day and she got it. Colette, she's got it. Now she makes a comment. Colette's making a comment here, like a mist as well. I'm not real sure what she's saying there. Let's go back.
Picture.
Yep.
It's in the second picture. Yeah. Yeah. You can kind of see. I'm not sure what that is. It's obvious. It's not a reflection.
No.
I'm not sure what that mist is, but you just got to look at this photo and you can see the rafters, you can see leaves, and everything is perfect. There's a tree that's just adjacent to the inn that you would be able to see from this angle. If you were looking, if all of a sudden, the roof would open up and you were on the inside, that's what you would see.
You have to lose the second floor first.
Yeah, because above you, you're right. There's that's where John Moorhead and Martha Moorhead's bedroom was at.
Yeah.
Is right up there on that second floor, as well as Anna's bedroom right next to it. So this picture right here, if I'm gonna pull it up one last time, if because I just love this thing, the basket would be the first basket, the furthest one to the right would be Judge and Martha Moorhead's room. Where the door is, would be about where Anna's bedroom would be above there, and so. Gosh, Wally.
Yeah, that's what I'd say.
What's going on? You know, Colette's saying it's spirit energy. Let's see. Michelle, I have the first book. Well, I hope everybody likes the books, but all in all, I just got to ask you guys, I think it's a combination of a lot of things that's there at the Stagecoach Inn. That last night that I was there, I experienced something that wasn't of this world, and that's all I'll say. I'll just let you read it. But what do you think is at the inn? Has it always been there, or was it something that was created after man built this structure on native ground? How do you think it all works?
Well, before I get into that, Alan, I know there's one story that we did not tell that
I'm interested.
That we got to bring it up, and I know, and I didn't know if you even remembered this part, but I saw somewhere that you did remember part of it. But there was a part of this night where Alan kind of disappeared. Nobody knew where Alan was at. Every once in a while, you'd see him walk by outside, but nobody could find Alan. All of a sudden, he comes in to the building, to the house, and he says, "Where's she at?" We're going, I saw her. She was in the room.
Saw her through the window.
Who are you talking about, Alan? She says, "My deceased wife." And we're all going, "Oh my God." And like that, you turned around and left. And then we couldn't find you. You disappeared again. We all go outside and we start looking for you. And we find you just a little bit down from the hill from the house, Alan. And you were the equivalent of a extremely mad pit bull.
You were pacing like a caged wolf.
I have never seen the look on anybody's face that you had, and you paced back and forth in, I bet you, a 10-foot line. How many times? Just with the but to look at you
weren't right.
No, you were something had you so bad. All of a sudden we're all going, we need Dee, we need Mama Moon, we need Chris, we need help, we need somebody to get help Alan. So they ended up going to bring them over there, and they got you calmed down. And Chris and Dee and Mama at that time, they sat you down the best they could, because you still were just angry. You just were upset. They got you to settle down, and they performed basically a minor exorcism, I guess. They literally they had prayers going. They had the holy water. They had everything going to get this, whatever it was, out of you. And watching you, and when they finally did get removed, you slumped. It was like a weight lifted off of you. Your expression was back. Your eyes were back compared to the black that was there where your eyes should be. Alan was back, and we were all scared for what had taken over you. Chris and Dee, they were exhausted because they had to work so hard to get whatever this was out of you.
That's when they called it a night.
That was when they called the night. That was it. Once we got that all straightened out, made sure that you were safe, they made the decision they were going to call the night. The investigation's over, just for the safety of everybody, and nobody argued. We're all going, yeah, we're good. It's time for us all to go. And it did. Everybody started leaving. And the funny part is, and I'm not sure who the folks were that would have been like your cameraman or running the filming. I think it was for you, or it might have been for Jim. They had stayed around there a little bit longer, and we talked to them, and they were telling us, like you had mentioned earlier, when they were sitting there, all of a sudden their headlights on their car started going on and off. Their engine would start, even though the keys weren't in it. They had some crazy stuff, and that's when they finally decided to get out of there.
Well, and prior to all of that happening, they had their next location to go to was going to be the basement. And then when that all happened, they called it. Yeah. And they said, that's it. We're not even going to go to the basement.
Because it was just going to be you, Alan, and Chris were going to go down and investigate the basement, because they figured it was pretty nasty down there, spiritually wise, and they didn't want anybody else to go. But when this all went bat crap crazy with you, Alan, that was it. The whole investigation was shut off that night. So that scared everybody that night. I've known you for a while, Alan, and I've never seen that, and I don't want to see you like that again. It scared us all to see what had you
like that. Hey, Chuckles.
I don't want to experience that with anybody. So no, not at all. And to go back to your question, I think part of it was always there because that was such a very important area to the Native Americans, and there's spiritual burial ground that's there. I think that has a lot to do with it. And I think the way the land was treated by us when we got there, the disrespect that we had for the land and for the Native Americans themselves, I think has a lot to do with it. I don't think it'll ever go away. I don't think it'll ever be settled.
Alan said we just lost connection. Try again. Are we still on?
Technical difficulties?
No, it looks like we're still on.
Are we on? But you can't hear us. Yeah.
Okay, can everybody see and hear us? Just give us a shout in the comments.
Colette can still see us.
I can see.
I see you too.
Can you hear us? Can you hear us?
Nope.
Can you hear us? Yes.
Well, but is that a
Okay.
yes to sing? Oh, Judy can still see and hear it. Okay. Okay, somebody's hearing us. Somewhere we must have
So
lost Alan.
Alan got lost out there.
Alan got lost
It's
out
now
there.
the Nick and Sue show.
And you know, that can be people.
Oh, and everybody, it's his birthday today, right now, his birthday.
And what better place would I want to be than with a good friend Alan and talking
62.
talking to great people. All right, but yeah, folks, I mean, it's a crazy, crazy location. I think it was probably a good idea that it was shut off to
down.
investigations, because that is not the place for anybody to go that would be taking this location lightheartedly or not seriously enough. That is a location that I truly believe is a place just waiting for somebody to get hurt. It scares me to say something like that, because then that leads me to somebody going, well, it can't be all that. I'm going to go prove it wrong. And I don't want to see that happen. I just, like I said, there's so much happened there that we don't remember. I mean, you know, that we just can't all think of at the moment. And there is a YouTube video out there that was filmed that night that Chris and Dee put out there. But again, so much happened outside and experiences that were had outside that never made it to film that night. So that place deserves to be respected. Like I said, I think there was way too much disrespect for the property and everything that happened there, that it shouldn't be affected anymore. It should be just left alone. But like we said, if Alan would ever go back, we have got his back. We've been through it once.
Yeah,
We'd be more than willing to be there for
with him, without a doubt.
Absolutely. But I wish Alan would come back. I feel bad that he kind of handed the show over to us. I'm not sure what we're supposed to be doing. But if you have any questions or anything on that, you can probably pop something over here in the chat part of this.
And we'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
There was another point earlier in the evening where Chris and Dee and Jim Martin had just all arrived. And they're standing there talking. And Chris and Dee mentioned that they were pretty tired. And Jim says, well, I was too. He says, I had a really strange dream. And in complete, unison, 3 people, they had not talked till that point. They all said the dream about the hanging tree. All 3 had literally the same dream. And what the dream consisted of, there's an extreme...
the hanging tree.
There's oak trees on this property. And they are probably the gnarliest looking oak trees I've ever seen. I mean, oaks are beautiful trees, but these trees have branches just really crazy. And one is called the hanging tree because literally the Stagecoach Inn was actually a courthouse as well. People were taken, found guilty, walked around the corner, and hung, from what we heard. But hey, there he is.
Wow. You know what? I didn't hear any of that. I lost everything. In fact, now I'm on my laptop. The other camera isn't working anymore. I was sending you. It just stopped. I didn't hear any of what you were telling anybody about what you've seen with me.
Oh, really?
I could. It said that my StreamYard had just failed.
Oh,
I mean, literally everything had failed at my end. That's never happened before.
Jeez.
So I don't know if anybody else was watching this. If it failed for them as well.
No,
I don't know.
It was just you, Alan.
Just you.
Yeah, I don't know anything about what you guys said. About what you seen with me.
He's gonna have to watch the replay.
I don't know anything.
Okay. Would you like me to tell it again, or you can watch it? One of the two.
One more time, and one more time, real quick, and then we'll probably have to call it because I couldn't even see any of the comments. I was blind. In fact, I tried to call you guys on the phone saying, "Hey, I'm here," but I can't get anything going. Nothing was working. So,
but before I go, Alan, I was just telling him about the dream that Chris and Dee and Jim had that night. And I just want to tell you folks, the dream turned out that all three of those people had a dream that they saw themselves hanging in the hangman's tree. All three had that same dream that night. It was crazy the way they were talking about it. But then, Alan, going back to you, when we finally found you, you were just off the crest of the hill below the house, and you looked like a very upset, enraged pit bull. Your eyes are black. You were just, every muscle was tense, and you were pacing back and forth, just like you were a madman in a cage in a 10-foot line, just back and forth, just what?
I don't remember any of that.
Yeah.
That's wow. I wish I could have put that in the book.
Yeah, it was.
Nobody would have believed it.
And we all had this look on our face, and you were doing this, and all of a sudden we're going, we need Chris, we need Dee, we need help for Alan. And at the same time, we're kind of standing around to make sure that you didn't, take off into the woods or anything like that. But you were not yourself.
Well, the camera's back.
I see that. But your eyes are black. Every muscle was tense, and you were just like a caged animal. You didn't really want to get away. It was just like you were, I don't know, just like a crazed ape trying to get out of yourself almost. And then when
Angelina, it just says, let me see if I can bring her message up here. It says, that was weird. That was something about my glasses are terrible. Cut off right at the moment you experienced something supernatural happened. So maybe other people had seen
True
the cutoff. I don't know. I hope everybody's still here.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, they're still commenting. Yeah.
Well, I hope so. Colette, spirits don't want you, Nick, to tell the story about what happened to Alan.
Yeah. And it was, like I said, when we finally did, a couple people went to go find Chris and Dee. And when they you finally go back and they asked what happened. I says, Alan needs help. Something has got him. And they went up there, and you were not too excited about letting him get a hold of you. But when you finally settled down enough, they got you down on your knees, and they had holy water. They had rosaries. They did what I would kind of call a mini exorcism. The prayers, everything was like a big prayer circle around you, and you were just tense yet. And then all of a sudden, they said that Archangel Michael had come in, appeared, helped remove this out of your back, and just like that, you relaxed. Huh. Your face, your color came back, your eyes went normal, but you were just weak. And it was at that point, Chris says, we're done. We're ending this thing. The investigation's over for the night.
Yeah, I remember it did. And it ended real abruptly. But just another side note onto that. I've recently been talking a lot with Father Ruben Lopez. Now, Father Ruben Lopez is he's a priest. He's not an internet priest. He's not one that got his degree on the internet. He's an ordained. He went seminary school and all that kind of stuff. He the Roman Catholic Church diocese out of New York, and we've had discussions about this. And he says, Alan, they know who you are. He said they watch you all the time. Oh. And he says that the Stagecoach Inn was your awakening, so to speak. And and I have noticed, again, I'm not anybody special. I'm about as sensitive as a blade of grass, but I have noticed since the Stagecoach Inn, a lot more happenings occur around me than they ever did before.
Sure.
It's like, I tell people, like, I have this neon sign above me that says, Alan knows we're here, and people that investigate with me, they've noticed that as well. And that's why I'd like to investigate with you guys at some point, so we can validate this.
Yeah, we will get her done. Absolutely.
I would absolutely love to, maybe head back out to Edinburgh. I don't know what it costs to do Edinburgh, but that's a really cool place. A lot of stuff moves around there. It's not
we know all too well.
It's just there's a lot of things that go on there. So I don't see. Let me see. What does Michelle say? some about in the first time he did the YMCA investigation. Yeah, that was, I've been doing a lot of these weird things. I probably shouldn't do all these investigations alone. In fact, I don't so much
Alone.
anymore. I'm
Probably
getting too old
not.
for that stuff. Uh,
Yeah, we
uh,
all are, Alan.
but yeah, I'm going down to Tennessee. I got a big
Uh,
investigation going on down there. I'll be with somebody. I'll be with Robert from
yeah.
Ghost Gear. In fact, I got some of his stuff here with me tonight. Ghost Gear products. But anyway, one more time. Should that place ever be investigated again? Should it just be left alone?
Left alone.
I think it should be left alone. And like I said, again, I'll say it. If anybody was to do it, I think there are a few things that could be found that could be pivotal. I think you are the one that probably would have the best chance of finding anything out
Yeah.
there. I think there are things there that want to talk to you, to want to get things out. But again, never by yourself. You need to go with somebody. But that would never be the place for anybody to go that's never investigated or with
nobody that's done this for anything less than 5 years. I mean,
absolutely.
honestly, I think I say that, and people, they say, well, I respect it. I respect the idea of it. I don't think you got to really understand the word respect.
Mm-hmm.
You've really got to mean it in order to go to this place. And quite honestly, it doesn't care if you respect it or not.
No,
it doesn't care if you're leaving offerings at that tree. There's something that's it just doesn't care.
Has no, yeah, absolutely.
And so it doesn't matter, how you relate to it. You can be nice, you can be kind. The whole night that I was there on my last investigation, I really didn't interact much. I observed a lot. I tried to just separate myself from any direct communications and asking direct questions to anything. I was just kind of there.
Yep.
And the whole place was just like this really bizarre vacuum.
Yep. It has its own mind, it's its own place.
And
own agenda.
If I was ever to go back, obviously, I would, of course, you're Iowans, and I trust you. You would be, along on that trip. The list is very short from there. That I would bring along. I probably wouldn't do it in a manner of being some kind of a global event. It would be very privately, very quietly done.
Yep.
I wouldn't make, a big money making type event out of it. It would be very quietly done, kind of slide in, slide out, and whatever we found, we would eventually release after, everybody had a chance to just crawl all over the evidence and see what's going on. And even then, I don't think we could really ever figure it out.
I don't think so.
So
no.
But hey, you know what? I want to thank you guys for showing up here tonight. You really clarified a lot of things for a lot of people, I hope.
We're honored to be here.
Alan, the sad part, I kind of feel, so many things that we've said tonight, I think it's hard for a lot of people to comprehend and understand actually all went on. Even though we were there and we saw it, Alan, it's still hard for us. And none of this place and none of it that happened was a joke. We're not exaggerating. We're not lying. We're not doing this to get airtime with you or for Short Bus. It happened. And that's all we can say. It was crazy. It was crazy.
It was, and I'm getting people that's coming in here that's saying they missed so much of the show. Maybe at some point we can talk about this again. People seem to really been enjoying this show tonight. You were probably one of the greatest participants that were there. I mean, I've talked to a lot of investigators. It's investigated, and they had the ordinary stuff, the footsteps they heard, and thinking they found orbs and EVPs. But that on that particular night, on those 3 nights of investigating, was more than I have ever seen. Even on some of these shows I see on TV, I have never experienced anything even remotely like this. I mean, this was like a Hollywood script.
Absolutely, that's what I said.
But it wasn't. How do you explain it? People say, "Oh, I get it. I understand." No, it's I'm going to go back to my own metaphor, saying unless you've really hit your thumb with a hammer and understand the pain, You know, you can say, I can tell you how much it hurts. You go, oh yeah, I can feel it. I know how much it hurts. No, you don't.
No,
Not until
no.
you actually hit your thumb with that hammer.
Yep.
That's what the Stagecoach Inn was like.
Yep.
And if you really want to get again, read the books. They're on Amazon. In Too Deep is my first book. In Too Deep is my first book. It basically it describes it's a chronicle. It describes almost every step of my journey through the Stagecoach Inn, and then In Conflict talks. It's my last investigation, but it talks about everything that goes through my head in order to get to that last investigation. All my self-doubt, you know, how I doubt myself and my methods and self-confidence, and is this something I really still want to do, and questioning the paranormal in general, and questioning the people in the paranormal. I mean, it's quite the story, and I think it really will bring people into my head, and I think it'll touch a lot of lives saying, wow, you know, I'm not the only person that feels this way. And I'm hoping that that's what the book does for people. And you can find that on Amazon under either Alan Cornelson, or you can just type in Too Deep or In Conflict. You can also go to darkriverpublications.com. It's a website. I think there's a couple of videos on there. You know what? In fact, real quick, I'm back to back. I'm going to show a couple real quick videos, just kind of a promo for the books. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna back out. And
Well
that's
done.
it. That last one gives you the creeps.
It does.
You know, that was the last investigation there. And when you see me pointing in the other room, that's what it scared the hell out of me. Let's just put it that way. I seen something there for the first time ever. I don't know what that was. I don't care to know what it was. You can read about it in the book. You can get it on Amazon. You can get both books on Amazon. Sue, Nick, thank you so much for sharing your experiences there at the I'm going to call it the Haunted Stagecoach Inn, and what I believe in my own heart. And of course, others might argue with me, but you know, I can say whatever I want. It's my show.
I like that. Absolutely.
It is the most haunted place probably in Iowa.
I would not doubt that.
And you know, Chris Moon said it himself. He said that there was one place that he considered his top 10 out of number one out of top 10 places, and that was the Sally House. And then he turned right back around and he said, Alan, he says, I changed my mind. The Stagecoach Inn is the most haunted place I have ever investigated in my life. So I want you guys to stick around for a second if we leave, but to everybody else, have a great night. Get my books. You're going to really enjoy them. I also, just real quick, I'm gonna plug this photo. These are really cool. Quick story, real quick story. I had a guy, I had him draw these pictures for me, and he just happened to pick the same photo of the last night's investigation of the Stagecoach Inn. When I was going to investigate it for those 3 nights, I had arrived there in the afternoon, and I took a picture of this place, this picture right here, for basically posterity reasons. And it was on that last night that I had the contact, that very first contact with the Stagecoach Inn, and I find it being completely ironic. So if you like one of these photos, your pictures, they're numbered. They're $25 a piece. Get a hold of me. Get a hold of me for signed copies here on Facebook. Just message me, and I used the Square. You can contact me. Nick and Sue both did it. It's real simple. We'll have a nice conversation on the phone, and you can get a book. So with that, thanks for joining in, and I hope to do this again soon. All
Bye,
be
folks.
safe and stay spooky. Yeah.